But I am saying that in a lot of these things, if the public is interested, they'll support it. If they're not interested, why would the town spend money on it?
If the town would bring the event to the citizens, and it's up to the citizens as far as whether they wish to attend it or not, and I'm sure after several events, you would determine whether or not the citizens wish to attend it. Our church, if we're talking about movies, our church put the big old screen thing up at on the ball field at the church 2 or 3 times over the last 2 or 3 years. And it was sort of like a drive-in, and it was, the public's welcome, and there was, numerous people, that came out and watched it, and, it was just done for the community. And to me, this is sort of like what we're talking about too. If a movie, I don't have a clue of what the rights to a movie would cost to show it, but if it's $300, $400, $500, we have to have something, as Michael gave, guaranteed the value of it. And then if we decide to pass it, that would be, however we decide to do. I feel that the town needs to provide seed money to the parks community for some of these events, such as the Halloween thing, the movies in the park, or whatever. If we were talking about $25,000 for movies in the park, now I feel quite go along with that. We're talking about, but once we do that, if this deal doesn't go through, I sure hope that we do have the movies in the park. I really enjoy it.
Are you saying this company's going to give us a little sooner, okay?
Oh, no. The company or the nonprofit?
You said you would have the movies in the park.
The agreement that Fund Together, that's still their name, is offering to the town is that they will provide a movie, they will do all the necessary fundraising to raise the funds necessary to put on the event, so that the only cost to the town of Summerfield is minimal cost of which is taking care of any garbage and things of that nature afterwards, and that everything else would be covered by them. They would provide the advertising for it. They would provide the volunteers necessary, as I understand it, to get the people into the event and then back out and go. So if an agreement is structured with them and they are able to perform that service, then there's really almost no cost, and that $2,000 for that budget limit is not spent.
But how do they make money? I just want, this is,
They go fundraise.
there you go.
They go fundraise.
They have sponsors.
They
for
have
the movies.
sponsors.
There were
They
2
have
sponsors for the Oak Ridge movie that I know, 2 large sponsors. And I don't
So
know.
it can be done.
But it's another organization doing it. It's not our
Not our
volunteers.
efforts.
Okay.
Because their goal is to have community events from a business perspective, as far as making, bringing the business community into the community, into the general community. That's what they believe their mission is.
Okay.
Okay, one more quick question. How much do these highway markers cost?
The budget item request was I think 2 markers for $3,045, and part of that was the initial setup costs. And then they would fund 2 markers over the next number of years.
For a year.
For the next 4, 5, 6 years, depending on how many markers in total get put up.
I personally would like to see that happen in the thing.
I think we have to put the onus on the history committee to get their paperwork done, get things in line. It says here that provide detailed plan to council and resolve issues including maintenance, ownership, right of way, etc.
Do we have to put that in, add that in tonight, or can we come back after the budget's approved and they get all the paperwork in order? Can we submit a budget amendment?
Either way. The The finance committee just recommended a budget amendment once the plan was presented to you, is what the finance committee recommended, but that's strictly up to council. Council can put it in tonight and still put the caveat on it, or
Expressions we get from the committee back there. Is that paperwork in place?
Can I talk?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, we submitted the budget, but according to this, it's asking about, the right of way and all that. Okay, if it's on somebody's property, we would get, permission signed. I mean, that's a given. We just thought that, but Bruce's Crossroads, the first sign will be on the town property, around the parking lot area. But we would get signed permission, and as far as upkeep,
there's DOT right away was the concern.
oh, okay.
Get approval from DOT, and whether they would allow it, and where they would allow it, and so forth, in the detailed plan. That was what the finance committee was talking about.
The key to it is that if it's a project that's going to move forward, it's going to take some staff time to work with them to get all those questions answered and all that. So it's a two-step issue. One, it's the funds, but recognize that if you're going to fund it, then it becomes at a certain level, a certain amount of staff time dedicated to make sure that those details get worked out before they get put up. So that's what I'm alluding to in the budget document, is that if the council puts this money back in, recognize the fact that it's going, all of this will take staff time, but that's an item that's not accounted for in staff time right now, because it's not been recommended for funding at this point. You put it back in, it's going to take staff time to do that work with the historical committee to make sure that everything is addressed that needs to be addressed. And it may go beyond the issues that we've raised so far, or that they've brought up so far, because it is something that
And the finance committee just recommended, the reason they did not have it in the budget, they recommended that a plan be presented to council with a detailed layout of positions and so forth, where this actual signs would be physically located, not just naming an address, but actually where on the property, which corner and so forth, is what the finance committee recommended as well. So pretty much the finance committee recommended that once the committee had all that information ready for you, that the budget amendment would happen at that point if council chose to fund it versus putting it in the budget now, but that's strictly up to council. That was just finance committee's recommendation that was brought into the budget.
So if we don't vote on it now, it does not mean that they cannot do it this year. It just means that that would need to be.
Those pieces would need to be put in place.
you would instruct staff and the committee to work together to bring you back a detailed plan that you could then decide to fund or not fund, but you would give instruction to do that, versus don't do it at all, don't work on it at all.
I would like to say too that this procedure being done this way has been a thorn in the sides of some citizens, as y'all know. The budget should mean something when it's passed. And here we are talking about amending it if we don't include it and it hasn't even been passed. So the budget should mean something.
Well, we've also, over the last 6 months, I think the council has said that in our workshops, et cetera, about the budget, that issues such as VFW, issues such as comprehensive plan and different items that may need to come before us for that, they're not ready yet to bring it before us, and that we would have to bring it to a budget amendment. So this is not the only time we've talked about it.
The VFW doesn't want any government money. Made that clear.
Well, they beg to differ on that, but we'll discuss that later.
Let me just clarify that the finance committee was taking the position that if they did not feel that an item had enough information, they did not include it in the budget. It was not to promote budget amendments, but it was just not to openly put items in the budget, because the finance committee's intention is for the budget to pretty much approve these items for the committees to do these projects. And by putting it in there without enough information, then they were putting their stamp of approval on the project, and they were not willing to do that at this point. So that's to clarify the need for a budget amendment as far as the finance committee is concerned.